This program airs statewide on California Public Television and is a California's Gold classic.
Hi, I'm Huell. You know, from time to time, our adventures have themes to them. And this particular program is a tribute to our state park system. You know, California is credited with having the best state park system in the world. 275 parks which cover our state from the redwoods in the north to the deserts in the south. And speaking of deserts, we are in one right now. This is the Eastern Mojave Desert. We've pulled over to the side of Interstate 40. We're heading east from Barstow to Needles. And this is a very remote area. But we have to be here because this is the way you get to the first of two state parks we're going to visit. And this first park has the distinction of being the most remote state park in California. They don't even have a phone out there. So if you're interested in where we're going and you're full of adventure like we are, and you've got a full tank of gas and plenty of water, as always, you're invited to come on along with us as we all continue our search together, this time in two of our state parks for California's gold.
Now, I love the desert, but after a while I did start looking at my watch because we'd been driving a long time and hadn't passed a single town. We hadn't even seen a house or any kind of a building. Then suddenly we came upon the turnoff, but even at that point we still had quite a ways to go. Our destination, Providence Mountains State Recreation Area, a 5,900-acre reserve on the eastern slope of the Providence Mountains. We were there to visit Mitchell Caverns, which have quite a rich and colorful history. And driving up into those beautiful mountains, we had a feeling that this was a special place. Good morning.
Hi.
I'm Huell.
I'm John Poloni. I'm the park ranger here at Providence Mountains.
Nice to meet you.
This is Catherine Howard, our park aide.
Hi, Catherine.
Hello.
And Ramon Sanchez.
Ramon.
Good morning.
He's our interpretive specialist here.
The interpretive specialist. Well, Ramon, could you interpret to us where we are? Because first off, I got to tell you, I didn't think we were ever going to get here. This is not an easy place to reach, is it?
It's not. This is California's most remote state park. And the area out here that you're looking at right now is called the Clipper Valley. That Clipper Valley is about 300 square miles of land. And many people who come out here do not realize that the Los Angeles Basin itself is 300 square miles of land. So you could actually take all of the Los Angeles Basin and place it right into this area. The mountains even fit into the whole scenario because the mountains in the distance are called the Old Woman Mountains. If you were near the LA airport looking northward, you would have the Santa Monica Mountains and then the San Gabriel Mountains. So the geological setting here is perfect for the comparison. And the thing is that Los Angeles was also a desert.
So this is really just an exact copy, in a way, of the Los Angeles Basin.
It's going back in history.
How far back does this go? I know this is old.
Well, in geological time, we're talking about like 250 million years ago, this was all covered by an ocean. And then 165 million years ago, there was a lot of geological activity with earthquakes, volcanic activity, lava flows. And then 12 to 15 million years ago, there was a beautiful tropical lush rainforest here.
A rainforest?
A rainforest. And that rainforest is very significant in regards to the caverns, for which this area is also very well known.
Okay, that's why we're here. Now we're getting to a word that's familiar to me because this place is also called Mitchell Caverns.
Mitchell Caverns Nature Reserve. We have two parks here in one. Providence Mountains State Recreation Area, which is camping and hiking and picnicking, and Mitchell Caverns Nature Preserve for people to be able to go in and see the unique formations that we have inside the caverns.
Okay, so there's some caverns here. There are also some old houses here, and that fits into it as well.
Yes, Mitchell Caverns, of course, is due to the person of Jack Mitchell and his wife Ada, who came here in the late 20s and were here through the 30s and 40s and mid-50s.
Now, what was he going to do with these caverns?
Well, initially it was a very family thing, I guess, but he realized that there was a great opportunity for him and his family to make a living giving tours. He would give tours, his wife would come back and start making sandwiches and something to drink, and she would sell some of those things to the public right after the tours.
Well, now we have hiked about half a mile down this little path hanging on the side of the mountain to visit the caverns themselves.
That's right. Now, today, as most people know, these are called Mitchell Caverns. But when the miners were here 125 years ago, they named them the Crystal Caves. But the Chemehuevi Indians, 500 years ago, named them the Eyes of the Mountain.
And there they are up there. Those are the two eyes on the side of the mountain.
Right. The Indians considered the caverns to be a sacred site, but I generally explain more about that when I get inside the caverns.
So these are the caverns that Jack Mitchell found and decided to make into a tourist attraction out here in the middle of nowhere.
That's right. The remoteness of this area is part of the beauty of it. A lot of people just come out here and kind of restore themselves, and of course the caverns. You see, the main thing people need to understand is a lot of people consider Mitchell Caverns to be the gem of the East Mojave.
Okay, now we're at the mouth of the cave, and this is where Catherine takes over. This is your specialty.
I don't know if I'd call it my specialty, but I do have a great interest in it.
What are we gonna, can we go in now?
Sure.
What are we gonna find when we go in there? Let's head in.
All
Come
right.
on, Louie. Okay, now we're inside the caverns, and what is this room called? Where are we right now?
This room is called El Paquiva.
El Paquiva.
Yes, that comes from the Chemehuevi Indian language. It means sacred water.
Now, would the Indians have actually been back in this part of the cave?
Yes, they did come to this part of the cave to carry out their rituals or religious rituals.
And how old is this formation where we are right now?
Well, it started to form, this cave started to form about 15 million years ago.
Wow.
What this cavern is known for is 3 unique formations. The first is the column up here, and when this occurs with stalactites and stalagmites, it's only found in 1 in 40,000 caves.
So that stalactite and stalagmite, they've grown together, they've come together.
Yes, they grew together and joined, forming a column. We have the coral pipes right here, and only 7 caves in the entire world can claim a set of coral pipes.
This is a neat cave.
Yes, we are small in size, but it's a lot of people's opinion that this is the most beautifully decorated cave in the southwestern United States.
Really?
Just opinion, of course. But
Now we're in for a treat because we have visiting Mitchell Caverns today Jack and Ida Mitchell's daughter, Ruth, who actually you spent a lot of time here as a young lady growing up.
Yes, I was teaching school, and every vacation I headed right straight out to Mother and Dad.
Now, what was it like out here back in those days? Because it's isolated today, it must have been really isolated back then.
It depends upon which year I came out. When I first came out, it was a tent. Later, they had one room, one cabin. In one end of that cabin, they had a bed. And then there was an old wood stove and a heating stove that was made out of a 25-gallon can, oil can.
So that was even before they built this house.
Oh, yes,
But this is a beautiful little house out here that your dad built.
yes. But, oh, that took a lot of rocks. Some of them he brought from the mine. Some of the rocks have turquoise in them, and he brought those over from the mine. That was this side of Kingman.
Now, it wasn't an easy proposition, was it, for your dad to open up these caverns and start giving tours up here?
Oh, heavens, no. And that wasn't his intention in the first place. He thought that the cavern should be safe for people to see, and that if he could get some pictures out and show them to people who had money, that he knew it would take money, but he didn't know how much it would take. He showed Doheny the pictures, and Doheny said, it's a marvelous idea. But he said, you have no idea what it would cost to start the caverns up. And he took them to a number of people, and they all said, it can't be done during the Depression. Nobody's going to get off the highway, and you just can't do it, Jack. And Jack then later, Dad then later said, You know, they say I can't do it. I'll show them I can do it. I'll go out there and I'll make a go of it. And Mother said, I'm with you, Jack. That's the way they were all the way through. I'm with you, Jack.
So they came out here and made a go of it.
Yes, Dad came first with the tent. And as soon as he got the first roof up so Mother wouldn't be in the rain. Mother didn't come in the tent, but when the first roof went on and the sidewalls went up, they came out and they started handling the rocks together. They did it together.
To build this little house back here.
Yes.
And to open up the caverns.
One big room.
And to open up the caverns for a tourist business.
Well, not only that, but that 23-mile road. He took rags and tied them on the bushes so he'd know where to drag. He went to the highway people. He said, we're going to have lots of people coming out here. But he said, I need a little bit of gasoline to get this road going, and then you'll make the money. And he could talk.
So he had to build the road from the main road 23 miles out here.
23 miles up here.
Wow.
So you had to build the road. He had to build his cover, and he had to put in the pipeline. He had to build a walkway over there to the caves.
But he did it.
He did it. And later, Jack and I, Mother and Dad always said, well, Jack, isn't it beautiful? It's worth it.
What does it make you feel like now, all these years later, coming back up here? There's the family home. There's the same view. What do you feel like coming back?
Words just don't describe the feeling that you get. They don't make people like my mother and father anymore.
What do you mean by that? Tough? Dreamers?
Just marvelous people with stamina. And the dream, it was a beautiful dream.
That came true.
Oh, yes. And today, I think most people are very, very thankful that it has been saved for them to see.
Our next adventure took us to the Sierra Nevada foothills, 8 miles east of Jackson in Amador County. Now, to get to this particular state park, we traveled down some beautiful little country roads and through the historic little community of Volcano. Our destination was Chaw'se Indian Grinding Rock State Historic Park, a 135-acre park created in 1968 that is a very special place. First thing we did after we got to the park was to visit the Chaw'se Regional Indian Museum, which features a variety of exhibits and an outstanding collection of Sierra Nevada Indian artifacts. From the museum, we hooked up with our host for a walk around the park, which includes a typical Miwok village that's been reconstructed. Now, it's been reconstructed in order to preserve the Miwok heritage and their traditions, and most importantly, to share these traditions with present and future generations of Californians.
Now, what are these four little houses here? I was going to say teepee, but I know that's not the correct word, is it?
No, it isn't. Not for this part of California, it isn't. Teepee is a Lakota Sioux word, and it means dwelling. And for some reason, all the homes that Indian people used to live in are now called teepees by people who don't know better. And these are umachas. Umachas, and these are bark houses made of cedar bark. And these are old-fashioned, old-time winter houses.
Now, are these the kind of houses that the people who lived here would have lived in?
Yeah, in most parts of the California, they would live in, especially in the foothills, those type of houses that were made of the bark from the cedar.
Now, is that because they were warmer? Because they were made of this kind of wood?
Yes, and because of the cedar bark has great insulation, and so they could live in it during the winter and it'd keep out the snow and the rain.
Wow. So these are reconstructed exactly the way they would have been here.
Basically they are.
Now these again are called
umachas.
Umachas. And what would a family of how many people be living in an umacha?
I'd say it could hold maybe 6 to 8 people.
The extended family went out in all directions, though, because it's kind of hard to put on a number that actually stayed in here, because grandmothers and grandfathers, aunts and uncles, they all played very important roles in the earlier peoples, and so they would have them also staying here, maybe not necessarily in the same Same
But in a
bark house,
grouping.
but in a grouping in itself. So.
Oh, wow. And this is made of
Cedar bark.
cedar.
And it was used primarily during the wintertime because of, as Marcus stated, because of the insulation, that it would actually keep them warm during the winter.
Now, would there be fires inside there?
Yeah, there would be probably build a small fire in the middle, and the smoke itself would rise up and go out the top. That's the way a lot of quote-unquote teepees were designed, but the opening in the front would also allow the smoke to go out too, and depending upon what they put over the doorway to keep the wind from blowing in. But you have to realize too, during the winter time everything was done in here, but during the summertime everything was done outside of the bark houses themselves. They weren't really used during the summertime.
So this was the winter. This was a winter home,
primarily.
Huell, it's my privilege and pleasure to introduce you to Alvin Walupi.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, just fine.
Alvin is the chairman of the Sierra Native American
Council.
Thank you. And his wife.
Hello. How are you doing? Now you're sitting here under this beautiful big old oak tree. There are a lot of stories. If that tree could talk, aren't there?
Sure, it would be. Be a lot of stories. I'd like to hear half of them.
Next, we were in for a real treat because we were taken inside an authentic Miwok roundhouse, which in the old days was the setting for a variety of social gatherings and ceremonial events. This roundhouse is spectacular, 60 feet across, one of the largest in California.
Sometimes I come down here like when I want to pray. This is our church and this is where most of the prayers are said, and so a lot of times I like to come down here when it's quiet and say my prayers to the Creator. It's really nice to be in here and really feels good. There's just a real good feeling about being inside here.
Wow. That's just like I was telling you. I get a different feeling when I get in here. It changes when you walk through the door. You feel altogether different. I do.
I think a lot of people, even non-Indian people, will say that before they leave the park. If they've had the privilege of coming in here and standing in here or sitting in here, they'll say, it didn't feel like I wanted to leave.
Now I'm here with Ramona Dutschke, who is a Miwok, and you are making a basket, and I assume you're making it the same way that your ancestors would have made it.
Yes, I'm using the Miwok technique, and this is something that is alive, and I'm working with something that isn't plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that I have to handle it as though it were alive, and I have to take care of it, and so it's a philosophy. I made these from willow sticks, willow beads.
Look at this.
And the red beads are madrone berries. See? They're shell beads. These are from pine nuts.
Wow.
This is a split cottonwood and red bud. And then I've used cattail for weaving here. This is a little sample of cattail and willow. This
Look
is
at all
medicine smell. Isn't that
Oh,
good?
boy.
Good.
Now what would you use this for?
Oh, anything, you know. It's good for sinus and, you know. I sprinkle it in my bed and when I'm feeling. Has a nice, you know, it's nice. You should try it. Makes you feel good. Makes you feel good. Has a nice odor, doesn't it?
Now, there are many fascinating things to see and do at Indian Grinding Rock State Historic Park. But the centerpiece of the park, and the way it got its name, is the rock itself.
Now tell me a little bit about this rock, because it's pretty spectacular, isn't it?
Yes, this is the largest grinding rock in North America that has been found. They've counted over 1,185 grinding holes or mortars that are on this particular rock. They also have discovered that there are 364 petroglyphs, which are rock carvings, and the last ones have been dated over 2,000 years ago.
Now when we talk about the holes, these are the, what do you call these?
We call these chaw'se. That's what the park is called, and that's a Miwok word meaning the mortar hole or the cup.
And how would they make these holes in the rock?
Over years and years of pounding acorns, the holes would be made, and when they got too deep, they'd start in a new spot and do it again.
So you mean they would start pounding on a flat rock?
Right.
And over the years, it would just make that
It'd
make that
it
hole.
deeper, and when it got too deep, I've even heard from some of the elders that they actually cooked in some of the holes. Like, they put heated rocks on the bottom, and they'd put meat or whatever they were cooking over the top and actually cook in the holes. It was a meeting place also for families had like their own spot on the rock. And they'd come out over generations. It'd be passed on to different members of the family. And so it was a real gathering place, a social place where the Indian people could talk. And
now, what do you mean families? You mean there would be a hole that would be known as the place where such and such a family would grind their acorns?
A hole or an area that was that had been like in the family for years and years, that has been passed down through generations.
A specific hole.
If I could add, Hugh, I think that it would be an area. And for generations after generations, this was the area where your family went. And the best way that I can describe this in modern terms would be like a big old community kitchen. And it was a place where it was real hot. Sometimes there'd be temporary shade shelters put up.
Over the rock?
In just, you know, not a huge thing,
Right.
but where you were working.
How many generations of people do you think actually used this rock?
That's a lot, maybe 20, 30, 40
Do you have any idea,
generations.
Rita?
Well, David, over 3 or 1,000 years or so, how many generations would that be?
3,000 years?
2,000, 3,000 years, maybe more.
You mean this rock was actively used for 3,000 years?
Maybe longer.
Goodness gracious.
Up until it became a state park in '68, it was used just prior to that with some of my my relatives. So it's been used before and just not too long ago.
So you mean your relatives would come here to grind acorn?
Yeah, I had a great aunt, and also my mother used to come down here occasionally too, and then grind acorn occasionally in not necessarily a specific area like they were talking about earlier, but they would come down and grind acorn here occasionally before it became a state park.
Hugh, we've been talking about grinding and using that big old rock over there, pounding acorn into flour, and what we have here is a portable mortar that we brought.
Portable mortar?
A portable mortar, and this was these were used when the weather was just too cold or not really good enough to be there on that rock, and people had these, families used these too. And I'd like to introduce you to Sarah Corrad.
Hello, how are you doing?
And Jen Denton.
Hello.
From the council.
Now, can you show us how this works?
Well, they just put a few of these in.
So here are the acorns that have been taken out of the shell.
Yes, first out of that, and then cleaned, and all the stuff taken off, and then they pound it.
So really, instead of grinding,
it was pounded.
It was pounding.
And until it's real fine, and then it's put in here and
put in a big flat basket.
And then they just flip it like this until the coarse one would come down out, and the fine would stay up here, see.
So it was really, you pound it into kind of a powder in here. Could you do that a little bit more for us? Is there a technique to doing it?
No.
And David has got the finished product for us here. Now explain that to us, because we're all in for a treat.
Well, the finished product here has to be cooked. After it's made into a powder form, it has to be leached. And by leaching, they're just basically using clear water to drain through the powdered form to get to drain the tannic acid out of the acorn itself. Then before it's cooked, it turns out to be something like this, after it's just been leached. And then after it's cooked over the stove for a period of time, you come out with what they call a soup.
This is soup?
This is soup. It's not soup in the sense of Campbell's noodle soup, but they refer to it as soup. It's just a liquid form of the acorn. And then also you cook it a little bit longer and you come out with what they refer to as a biscuit. And again, not the same idea of an oven bread, but it is biscuit form. So they just cook it a little bit longer, and it gels together and becomes an acorn biscuit.
Now, can we serve some of this up so we can try it? Is this something that would be a normal part of your diet?
Yes.
How often would you eat this?
Oh, well, I don't know. Well, in the olden days, they, I guess had it nearly every meal.
Now, not everybody likes this, do they?
No, it is an acquired taste.
Why are you laughing when I said that?
Because most people don't. For
Really?
the first when they taste it the first time.
So it's an acquired thing.
Right, and if you eat it with meat and a little onion and things, it just enhances the flavor of other foods.
Who here likes it? Do you like it?
I like it.
Do you like it? Do you like it?
Not really.
Do you like it?
I do.
Yes. Do you like it?
I sure do. I was raised on it.
Really? Do you like it?
I like it. It is an acquired taste, one of which I had to acquire a taste for. But Marcus, he mentioned that he doesn't care for it that much because not all Indian people ate acorns or this product that you see here. Certain people had acorns, some people didn't, and we did, so this is what became of the acorn themselves. But
And it's really quite historic that we're having this little meal and this demonstration right here in front of this rock, which for thousands of years is where this happened.
Right.
Well, let's take a taste. There it is. I'm not sure after what you all have said about it.
It was just Marcus.
Yeah. Well, come on, everybody. Come on, let's get in here and see what this is like. It has a, I think it's an acquired taste. Why are you laughing?
You don't like it? Well, you need to have a little piece of meat or a little salt or salt and you know, and it makes it taste.
You really like this.
Well, you and the kid and I like it.
Well, if you like it, I'm going to let you have mine.
All right. I take all I can get.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our visit to these two state parks. Both Providence Mountains and Chaw'se Indian Grinding Rock State Historic Park are very special places. And remember, they are just two of our state's 275 parks. We should all be extremely proud of our state park system. Well, this adventure is over, and as we close, as always, we invite you to join us again next time. Come on along with us as we continue our search together for California's gold. And maybe we'll run into each other in a state park. Would there have been, on a typical day, standing out here, would there have been a sound associated with being here?
Maybe singing. In the old days, you know, just like when you're working in the kitchen these days, if you feel good, you might sing a song.
And what about just the sound of
the pounding?
The pounding.
Mm-hmm. The sound of kids maybe coming and wanting to irritate their mom or something, and people talking out here and just socializing. And it was a good place to get together and get your work done and have fun together at the same time.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and I sure hope you enjoyed this adventure. If you'd like to see it again or share it with your family or friends, all you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.